Hello, everybody, and welcome to the House Salt Book Club. This month we read Happy Place by Emily Henry in our grand tradition of reading Emily Henry books on this book club. The only one we haven't read together was Beach Read, but we've read all the other two and now this third one together. So hello, my name is Marines. My channel name is Marines, and I am like 4.5 out of 5 stars for this one right now. I really liked it. I'm so excited to talk about it.
Hi, I'm Sam from Thoughts on Tomes. I think I'm settling at 4 stars. I can be persuaded, I think, in different various directions, but I think it's a solid 4 for me.
Hi, I'm Connor. My channel's just Connor O'Brien, and I'm sitting at a 4 as well. Yeah, I think I'm pretty solid at that 4, I think. We'll see.
I'm Kayla from K Sharice on TikTok, and I would give this a 4.5 maybe. I loved it.
I'm Jordan from the Jordan Journals, and I really loved this. I thought it was really good. I love her books.
And hi, I'm Paige from Minimal Bookie, and this is a 5. This is like my favorite Emily Henry, 5 stars, 10 out of 10.
We got a win. Even our lowest rating is a 4. That's a win. I'm so happy.
It's a win for us this time. Yeah. I told y'all going into this, I was like, this is actually good Emily Henry.
Yeah.
We will talk about like Emily Henry a little bit more and like where this fits into like the larger Emily Henry canon at the end. But let's talk about this book first. I will say that, well, I'll save this for the end when we're talking about Emily Henry, because I was nervous because I had heard mixed things about it. So we can talk a little bit about that later, but we'll start with the characters. So let's start with our main female characters, Harriet. How do you guys feel about her?
I related to her. I thought she was relatable.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because with her, her motivations as a character are really interesting. I felt like this leaned back into more like Beach Read, where she had other motivations minus the relationship that obviously is at the center of it. And it was something that I hadn't anticipated to be reading about in an Emily Henry book, where like I will say the end, it feels like she goes off course a little bit, where it was a little unbelievable. But I thought that because she had that external life, she was much more interesting to read about in terms of like the full relationship. And she felt like an actual person versus just like a stereotypical character in a romance book.
Yeah. I think it was really interesting as a character. I don't know how much these characters will be memorable to me, like as characters, but their struggles, really memorable to me. Like I felt like, I don't know what I could tell you about Harriet. Like I can tell you more about like her, why she's always people pleasing and like things more around that than like Harriet is like this. She just felt like normal and like really, I don't know, in that regard. There's something about Emily Henry books that are always a little bit like beyond belief, a little like wackadoodle to me. But her as a character, like there were so many things about her that felt grounded, and I found her struggles more memorable and more relatable than anything else. And I do like a quieter character that, you know, it doesn't always have to be like this. Like the fact that she was just always trying to be like, okay, guys, let's work it out. Like, I just love that. Like, you don't always need sort of like this is kind of the opposite to me of the book lovers character, where she was like brash and she was like, this is who I am. Harriet was just like, can we all just get along? And I was like,
yeah, I read this the beginning of the month, so I know the Paige read this like before everybody else. But August has felt like approximately 8 million years to me. So I'm like, I read this like 3 months ago when I didn't. So yeah, I will say that I feel like the like main characters are not standing out to me necessarily as like characters that I'm gonna like think about all the time, but yes, it is like that, like their struggles and their dynamics and like the friendship dynamics and stuff are also like, wow, that's relatable with like adults and adult relationships and friendships and whatever, more so than like her. And to push back on the book lovers, I really liked the main character in Book Lovers, so she stands out to me.
We like her.
Yes.
Her whole thing is like, I'm allowed to be like brash. I'm allowed to,
yes.
be in my like bitch energy, and we love that.
Right. Yes. I love her. Very defensive of her. But yeah, this is
energy.
Different. And that's what's nice about Emily Henry books is like, I will say, I know that we have like varying levels and we'll talk about like where we're rating everybody, but like I find all of her characters to be like really well-rounded like people. Like they all feel like people to me, even the ones that I haven't really liked, never come across to me as just like cookie cutout type characters. Like they all like work for the theme that she's exploring with them.
Yeah, because I was gonna say like the Harriet not being like as memorable. I feel like that also leans into like the whole like premise of it, that she's very confused about who she is and she's lived a life for other people. So I was just like thinking like that actually really works with the character and the themes.
Any other thoughts about Harriet?
No, you guys kind of covered it all.
All right, so the main male character is Win. How did we feel about Win?
My life. Love him. My favorite of all of her. I feel like Charlie's like the usual favorite, but Win is my, like, if you are like a well-adjusted human being, Win should be the person.
Should be your favorite.
Yeah. I feel like my favorite is, who was the Beach Read guy? Augustus or something? Gus is my favorite of the men.
Yeah, okay, fair.
Yeah. But yeah, I did like Win. Like as soon as she shows up and they're like, but it's also like it's their chemistry specifically that is like so attractive. Like I think him in maybe another setting and the way that like he is sort of framed, even though I feel like we don't like, what was nice about him is I feel like he's framed in the way that like Harriet views him for us, because you hear people saying like, oh, you know, he's sort of like a little playboy, whatever. Oh, he says that he's like dumb, but it's like, no, we see him as just like this perfect being because Harriet loves him like so much. So it's just like very sweet.
I really loved him. I loved him so much. I think it's really difficult to have characters that are sort of on the quieter or shy side, or people like him who are like reticent to talk about themselves. A lot of times when you have these characters, they just come off as like wooden to me. So it's hard to get personality across and also people who are kind of in this mold. And I think Emily Henry did it so well because I feel like I knew him, I liked him. It had to do a lot with the chemistry. I also understood like where he was coming from, even though I was so frustrated with the conflict in this. Like she gave us enough about like his grief, his depression to be like, I can't even hold this against you, my guy. I loved their chemistry. I love their banter. I loved him so much. That he is also my number one, I think, out of all of Emily Henry's guys.
I really liked him too. I feel like he could have been like a really stereotypical character too. Like he kind of like keeps to himself. You don't learn a lot about him. He has like a playboy persona to him, and he just like went in a completely different direction than what I expected a character like that to be.
Yes.
Yeah, I think on their own, I like both of them, but it's the conflict / non-communication that made me so frustrated with both of them the entire time, which I know is supposed to happen, but it made me annoyed at him. Because I'm like, just say something.
I will say along those lines, I normally hate miscommunication in books. Like I hate it, but here I didn't mind it so much. And I don't know if it's because of their chemistry and because of what was going on outside of their like conflicts and everything in their personal lives and family. But yeah, I love him. Like people say like boyfriend goals or whatever. Yeah. That would be Win.
I feel like even though lack of communication is like a frustrating thing typically, I feel like it made sense for who they were as people.
Yes, definitely.
So like, of course, these two people who are now together would have a hard time like communicating their needs with each other.
I think too, the reason it worked a little bit, I'm also like anti-miscommunication. But I think for me here, it's because it's more like the lack of communication. Yeah. And that theme is like a big theme throughout even in the friend group. And so I was like, this is one of those times people say that like miscommunication is so hated because it's like such a true to life thing. Like people suck at communication. That is true. And so we don't like it like reflected. And that's why part of why miscommunication doesn't work for me. I'm like, just talk, please. Even though in real life, I'm like, I will not. There was so much relatable content here about like, you know, being the person that's like, whatever you guys want, or like, you know, learning how to take a back seat to your own needs, to prioritize other people, that I just like felt it was so relatable that it didn't bother me as much. Like I was frustrated, but in the ways that I was supposed to be, right? Not like, oh, you know, this book is not working kind of ways.
Right.
Yeah. And it helps that it was only a couple months. Like that. Yeah, it's like a couple months and not like 3 years passed.
Well, it was kind of like 6 years. Weren't they together for like 6 years?
They were but like they weren't talking for like 2-3 months. Like it was like the gap between them not talking was actually short enough that it didn't feel like a second chance romance to me because it was just on pause. It was like it was always a romance. They just like taken a break to like figure things out.
And they also like they weren't talking for that span, but also all we got was like a weekend or a week or whatever. Like cool.
I will say that I sat a little. The miscommunication a little bit got to me, like a little bit, because I'm okay. I can sit with miscommunication trope, like whatever. And the angst was so good here, but there was a few times where like it was repeatedly like she would say, you know, he hates me, but then she would reference like his physical reaction to her, like a heartbeat racing or something that she'd be able to feel. And I was like, girl, like, come on, man. Like, you can say that if you're not having like close, you know, his pupils are dilating and all this stuff. And it's like, I know that that's for us to know, but also like, it was almost mentioned a few too many times for me where I was like, okay, come on. Like, I'm starting to not believe that you truly think that this man like has been hating you this whole time, you know? But also that was offset enough. Like, that's what kept it from being like a 5 stars. There's a few things. There's a few like small things that added up that like docks minor points for me that kept it from being a 5. But that's why it's still like, it was still good because I was like, but then an angsty thing would happen or like a flashback would happen and I'd be like, oh, like, so it wasn't making me pissed off at the book, but it kept it from quite being perfect for me.
Any other thoughts about their relationship or chemistry? You mentioned the flashbacks, and I think the flashbacks were so well paced or like so well inserted here, and I needed them because otherwise this has, you know, Emily Henry does this thing, not in all of her books. I wouldn't say People We Meet on Vacation, it's like this, but where it's like a little like this thread of sadness running through, you know, her. And here it was a lot of angst, but it was also like these people are broken up, and it's so very clear to us, the reader, that they shouldn't be. So it was like sad from go, where you're like, oh my god. But then you would get a flashback scene and see how they fell in love, and I was like kicking my So it like balanced out, I think, that like sadness really well, and especially for a second chance romance that doesn't always work really well for me because we don't get to see them falling in love. And you're
literally
just
what I was going to say,
that they're in love, and I don't know that is true, but here we got to see pieces of it.
Yeah, that's why second chance doesn't work for me because I like reading the couple getting together. So the fact that she was able to balance doing both, I was like, this is the perfect second chance romance for me.
See, I love the like angsty turmoil of a second chance.
I mean, you
and where they're just like staring daggers at each other like the whole first part of the book, which I felt like I got enough of here because I was like, these people, and like the way that they would make jokes with each other felt like very believable for like how a couple would interact, and it made me happy.
yeah, or just where they were like, because this house is so important to like their relationship and the friendships and whatever, like the wine cellar stuff was like, oh my god, like all of that was so like good because it would flash back and forth to like when they had their big, like it was just, oh my god, it was so good. I was like blushing. I was like, oh my god. Like,
but in present day, they're staring at each other like you're the worst person ever.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and I also appreciated all the flashbacks for the negative stuff too, because like their relationship didn't blow up. It like just deteriorated.
Yeah.
Very slowly with all these small moments of like the mom saying like he's gonna be upset following you around and and mentioning things and putting doubts in her mind that she internalized and all that stuff. So I think someone said the entire book was sad, but yeah, like, so there was sadness sprinkled in the flashbacks as well, which I appreciated.
Yeah, it was nice that it wasn't like a big blow up fight and then they just kind of like walked away and never talked again. That it was more of like a just life got in the like life happened and they didn't work through it kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, it's so believable too, to like, distance doesn't make the heart grow fonder, you just grow apart. So I felt like that was believable.
Well, even the thread of like figuring out what exactly happened, because for a while you're just like, she's like, yeah, he called and just like ended it, and it was a 3-minute phone call, and I was like, what? Because you meet him and then you're like, this man is obsessed with you, like, what are you talking about? And then like you have this whole like thing where she mentions a coworker, and I was like, I don't think there's like a cheating plot, like, so it was a little bit of like that vagueness too, like was just enough sprinkled in to be like, what happened here? Yeah.
I also like that moment of him, like, I was very worried that it was going to be a thing where I would be like, when you're a dick. And I didn't quite feel that way, because both of them, for worse, I was going to say better or worse, for worse, were acting in a way that they thought they were prioritizing the other person. So like Harriet was like, I'm fine, go do your thing. Like she was trying to give him room to grieve, and he was like, I'll end it because she asked me to like never let our relationship get to the place where what. So like the other person was like thinking that they were doing right by the other person, and it just missed each other. So it didn't come from this place where it was like a cheating plot line, or he did dump her because he wanted to go pursue his own happiness. So I can still root
malicious.
I can still, yes, it was not malicious. I can still be like, yay.
I think there's something so relatable about the fact that she didn't want to like upset him even more than what he was. So like she didn't really prioritize herself. I think somebody said that, but yeah, it was just so relatable. And yeah, sorry.
Because you can also see his side too. Like she was delaying the wedding. She was not participating in it at all. And so like, I think I would be like, well, do you even want to get married? Because clearly you're not really into it.
Right.
So, that whole thing was so just very tidy and well done.
Like communicating, she wasn't picking up the phone as often. She was like not telling him how things were going in her day to day. So he was like,
she wasn't sad he didn't come visit her.
Yes. It was like enough things there. I'm like, my guy, I see your point. Like, you were wrong.
Right. Like you guys could have had a conversation, but also it's like this, it makes sense why you would think that. And like there was even one of the things like throughout the book when I was reading it where I was like, I don't know about this piece, was that I was like, does this woman even really like being a doctor? Like, we don't really hear about it. And then at the end, it was like, she's like, I don't actually like my job. And I was like, oh, that makes sense why you have like literally not mentioned like identity around being a doctor, like at all. Cool. Like, so that was all intentional. Because you could totally tell that it was like, oh, you're like a super people pleaser. Okay.
It was crazy to me that it like, I don't know. I don't know if I could ever throw away all that schooling and all that money.
I
was like, just switch to dermatology or something. Like, schedule yourself.
I totally like get that feeling of like I've worked on this particular thing for so long, and this is like a whole identity of mine, and then to realize you don't really like it and want to walk away from it.
Yeah, I related to it. I mean, I was not a doctor. I did not. I did 4 years of pre-pharmacy, and right before I got to pharmacy school, I quit. But it took like me breaking down, calling like family, like being super, like I was making myself sick because I hated it. But just like the sunk cost fallacy and the whole, like I was the first person in my family to really go to college. And so I had like all of this pressure. And so I probably would have kept going if I did not make myself physically ill. So like reading about that, I was like, I get it, girl.
Yeah. And when they have that whole conversation where he's like, you know, I don't want you to like, you know, give up all your dreams and whatever, I was like, oh, because like I don't even think she really likes being a doctor that much. And then when she was like, this is my choice to go be with you, I was like, yay. Good, because I didn't want to have this thing where it's like, yeah, now we have this epilogue where like we're back together but we're distant, and I was like, no. And then they didn't do that, and I was like, Thank you.
I really like that piece of it as well. I like that whole, like, anytime that there's a, like, you know, a moment where the person is like saying something and then the other one is like, no, like, go for your own good, go do something else, and they're like, this is my choice, like, respect my choice. I love that, like, little niche trope in fiction where somebody's like, listen to what I'm actually saying and what I actually want, this is it. And so that moment at the end was like extra satisfying for me as well. All right, so we've been talking a little bit about like the career piece of this and how like she had this whole like job thing that was going on. He also has a whole job thing, and this is very Emily Henry-esque. Why a lot of people are like, that's not romance, that's women's fiction, which to that, right?
Yeah.
She often has like all of these other plot lines that support like what's going on with the romance. And so another huge thing here was the friendship and the friend group, right? They're at this vacation home, this happy place, and they've got the gang all together. So how did you guys feel about either any of the characters that we met in the friendship group or like the friendship piece of this overall?
Oof, the friendship dynamic of like that sort of group that forms from like usually a core something and then adding on, I was like, this is like adult sustained friendships, like so really solidifying it early on with like the trio and then being like, and then here's the additional pieces. I was like, yep, this is like a very believable organic friend group. And even like having like the like other partner, I forget the girl's name, Kimmy. Yeah, like her coming in and being like, it's like you were here all of that just felt like real. Like
I thought Kimmy was so Tony.
Yes.
So Connor's
That's so funny because I was gonna say like the other one, whatever her name is, was my favorite character, which would be me. So at least I like myself.
Listen, it's funny because they also have that moment at the end where she's like, I thought Kimmy was everybody's favorite. And we're like, no,
but that's because that's true. Tony is literally all of your favorites.
You're the original friend.
So funny. Yeah, Kimmy is definitely very Tony coded.
Yeah.
Emily Henry knew.
Which means that it's like a phenomenon that happens, right? Of like the boisterous, like whatever comes in, you know, like I just think that's so funny that's like obviously like a personality thing that happens.
For people that don't know, Tony is my husband.
We get along very well.
We just like absorbed him into our
You are ours. My friends from high school and all of like us were together this past weekend, and we haven't like gotten together to do like a friend group thing, and like it's been over 2 years now. And the friend's house that we were staying at, her husband, whose also his name is Tony, kind of like served the same like purpose. Is he just like came in like much later than a lot of the other people and was just like everyone's favorite.
So funny
phenomenon. And captured. I loved the like all of the friendship stuff in here. It really did feel like so adult friend coded. I think that part of the reason
millennial friend coded.
Yes, millennial friend coded. I think part of the reason that like miscommunication as a theme worked so well for me was because we were like the friendship was taking a part of that onto themselves, and like through them we were also exploring this idea of like I think about like when you're in college or when you're living with friends, like, and you're just updating them on your day to day and how easy that communication is. But then as adult friends, it becomes so easy to be like, everything's okay. Because if not, you have to like go back and like all the details and the inconveniences, you're not communicating that way anymore. Yeah. And so the shorthand just becomes like, yeah, everything's same as last time you talked to me. Like it's so easy to slip into them. And so seeing that through the friend group was like, I loved that portion of it. I loved it so much.
And I think that's why I really liked Sabrina. Is that her name? Sabrina? The one who's like planning everything, the rich one.
Yeah.
Because she like sees how everything is breaking down and she's like put in so much effort to make everyone feel seen, like especially like when they actually all go to the thing that like the surprise that she planned for them, and they're like, "Oh, Sabrina does love us all, and we were mean to her."
Yeah,
it's like, oh, for Sabrina.
Yeah, or even like all the
But also
little like
stopping-
dyad relationships that happen, like, so not even just like the relationships that are romantic, but like the different dyads within, you know, so like how is it Cleo the other friend, so like how Cleo and Harriet like get along versus Cleo and Sabrina versus and so like again, even that was so well done, because in a friend group it's not like it's just this big glob, it's like there are individual friendships as well, and how like who gets along better, and or who like should talk the other one down when they're off a cliff kind of thing. So yeah, that was like really fun. I could almost have had like slightly more. That was my other piece of like, I think the friend stuff at the end got wrapped up like ever so slightly too quickly for me, that I was like, I wanted a little more, but like also I didn't want anything to be taken away from like the Harriet and Wynn angst throughout, but I think like sprinkled a little bit more and then a little more at the end would have been like, again, like 5-star for me. I just needed a smidge more.
My 0.5, mine like more 4.5, is just a little bit how fast it felt at the end. Like, you know, just because this was a lot of internal conflict, it was a lot of like, you know, them, you know, having all these feelings and not communicating well. There's a part of it that I'm like, I see that this just had to end with them like realizing things, right? And so what else really can you drag on from like you realizing something? I get it, but it did feel in the overall pacing of things like really fast at the end. It was like boom, 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 happy. And I was like, whoa, like well, that was like my 0.5. It wasn't enough to really take away enjoyment, because some of these other pieces, like the friendship group and the themes and the characters, were just like so stellar. But that was my like one complaint.
Yeah, I think this is like the best book in terms of capturing like the stage of like life in like early late 20s, where like you're all growing apart for different reasons and you're trying to hold on, and then having that one thing that brings you together not be possible anymore. Like that element of it was probably my favorite part of the book, was like feeling seen as being in that stage of my life right now, and like having all of these situations happen. It was really nice to see that, and it felt like more of the crux of the book than the angst between Wynn and Harriet, because you knew they were going to get together.
And like the different timelines where like people are getting married on different timelines, pregnant on different timelines, and again, just the very smart way that Henry like mirrored the thematic stuff in the romantic relationship with the friend group, because like the whole thing was like Sabrina trying to keep things and not let them change, and the whole thing in the romantic relationship was how things had changed and they hadn't adjusted. Like that, it just was so smart to like let us see it through the two different lenses. It made a lot of sense. It balanced it out too, like the angst of it also.
I honestly thought Sabrina and her boyfriend were going to break up at the end.
I'm glad they did.
I felt like there was something. I was like worried that there was going to be something like really traumatic happening with her. Like she was going to find out that she had like a diagnosis or something. And I was like, I don't want it to go that sad.
I thought there was like something else besides the house that was like underlying.
Yeah.
But no, it wasn't. It was just her feeling unloved.
Like everything was
just feeling unloved.
No, I mean the whole thing, but like her
like
last thing was that.
Yeah, their relationship was one again too that I was like, oh, I wanted to know more about like how those two even like got together. Like, yes, they basically said like they would fight, and then one time they hooked up and they're like, no one mentioned it, you know, and then they were together. But like, I feel like I would have liked to have even seen more of like that dynamic too. But again, I know it wasn't even about like all of those individual pieces necessarily, but yeah, there was just a few pieces where I was like, give me just like a smidge more.
Yeah. There was also a ton of like family stuff in here as well. Also very par for the course with Miss Emily Henry, like lots of family dynamics and like, you know, death of a parent and like elder care for your parents, like really, you know, the whole thing with Harriet is like her relationship with her family and why it has made her the people pleaser that she is today. And then even just like talking in brief with the friendship group, like how each of their family situations like inform the way that they fight and like react and like all of that stuff. So how did you guys feel about the family drama aspect of this?
Yeah, that like I think that is also so how friends talk in that, like, again, late 20s into, like, I would say even, like, early 30s too, where people are, like, they had an awareness, all of them had an awareness of, like, well, she acts that way because her family's like that, da, 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 da. But it was, like, this, like, surface level thing where they still weren't going quite, like, deeper into, like, okay, so what about, like, our communication then? And just, like, almost covering some of these things up and trying to make, like, allowances for each other and whatever. But, yeah, like, all those pieces, it's like, yep, like, that's what you talk about when you're, like, fully adults and you get it of, like, well, you know, my parents are this way and we all know that their parents are miserable and that's why she acts that way about love and blah 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 blah. Like, that all made sense. And even, like, her parents, like, sad story, like, that is almost, those kinds of stories are almost more tragic to me than, like, a parents that split up, of, like, these parents that are, like, miserable and then just, like, and just, like, stay together and, like, aren't happy and then, like, put that on their kids. Like, it's just,
they just don't feel that they can do anything about it,
right? And they just sit in, like, complacency.
At the end. The mom realizing, like, she has the option to be happy. It was like, you didn't know that.
Yes.
Yeah, the true happily ever after in this book is that the mom gets divorced.
Yeah.
Like, her daughters throw her a party. Yeah, I really appreciate, like, all of those. I think that this goes back to what we were saying about Emily Henry, like, forming really full and complete characters. Like, you meet this person that is not just, like, falling in love. You meet this person that's falling in love, but has a career and has family and has friends. And each of these areas, like, add a little bit of, like, conflict into their lives. So I really enjoyed, like, the pieces of it where, you know, even in passing, like, just hearing the bits about Win and his mom, I thought was so sweet and, like, also so sad. And just, he's like, yeah, I do crosswords with my mom and I actually really love living with her. Like, all of that adds texture to the story in a way that I really appreciated.
I loved how her sister actually, like, reached out to her and she was like, you know, I always, like, envied you or, like, didn't like you at all or whatever, and I never knew that this was going on, like, inside your brain. Essentially, then, like, Harriet was like, I never knew she was seeing a therapist, and I thought that, like, really, like, honed in on, like, the mental health aspect of this book, and I really liked that a lot. I appreciated it a lot. But yeah,
I think about
very.
Go ahead.
I think it's very realistic too that, like, one sibling out of, like, two makes that connection and realization sooner than the other one.
Well, and
about
Harriet,
like, their parents and such.
Like, Wynn's sisters were Harriet to him, but, like, they had a better communication and better parents. So, like, their sibling relationship didn't break down, but Harriet's and her sisters did because of the parents and the family group, which, I mean, that was probably done on purpose, but it was well done.
I keep thinking the same about, like, you talking about, like, the places where it could have gone deeper, and I totally valid sort of thing. But it makes me think about, like, how Emily Henry builds so much into her stories that you could take any one of these things and, like, make a whole book out of it and, like, deepen it. 'Cause even, like, some of these others, you know, I one of the best problems to have from a book is wanting to see more, because I would have loved to see more of, like, Harriet and her sister, and, like, even the little flash we get at the end, I'm like, oh, that's sweet that, you know, they are going to reconnect or be able to reconnect as adults because they're, like, finally, like, talking about what they experienced together. So.
Yeah.
All right. Anything about that we haven't covered about the plot yet, or any moments, the ending?
We could probably talk about the house itself as, like, such an integral part of all of their friendships and, like, relationships, and losing the house is, like, the foundation that they thought that their adult friendship was based off of. I thought that was, like, a well done thing, because that happens.
Their relationships,
like our friend group, we used to, like, all converge Y'all Fest.
Yes.
And then we were all like, we don't want to go there anymore. And then we had to figure it out.
but it felt like for so long we were going there because, like, that's what we did. Right?
Yeah, that was it.
That's what we did as friends. And so we kept, like, going to this event until we were like, we don't want to be here anymore.
You can plan a vacation without Y'all Fest.
Yeah.
Right.
The last year we went, I was the only one that did anything to do with Y'all Fest.
Yeah.
Since like year 2. Like I've been going like every year, and it's just like, and everyone's like, Sammy, do you have any panel? No, like, I'm not here for that.
Yeah, I mean, we've been to other ones, like smaller groups of us have been to other ones, but it's not like that thing where like, oh, we need to go, like the friend group needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it happens where you attach like sentimentality to like a place or like an experience, and you get stuck in like doing that thing because it's like the thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad, like, low key, that like this cliche thing didn't happen at the end of the book, and like they got the house back or whatever.
Yeah.
Normally that always happens, and I'm just like, thank God.
They saved the house from being sold.
Yeah.
This Summer I Turned Pretty season 2.
Well, they kind of nipped that right at the beginning because there was already a buyer. Like it was like
right.
done.
Yeah, there was no like that wasn't
like.
Yes, in a Hallmark movie, it would have been like, how do we make sure we can keep it? But like, it wouldn't be a billionaire selling their house in a Hallmark movie either.
Yes, there was like, an early line like, we're not going to pass around a cup and collect $6 million to buy the immediately no.
Yes. Yes.
What a like terrible new wife too to make them sell the house from like an ex-wife of like 4 wives ago.
Right.
This one wife, I don't like her house.
Yeah.
Be gone.
But that is like rich people weird drama, which like so that totally makes sense. But like even the importance of the various like rooms where like they each had like it was always her and Wynn like shared the twin bedroom for the longest time, and then all of a sudden they put them in the like romance suite. It's like an open shower. I'm like, oh my god, like yeah, it really is like there's only one bed like to the nth degree with that, and the fact that they were sneaking behind the house to take showers in the outdoor showers. No one noticed.
I was so hoping for when Cleo and Kimmy went to sleep in the guest house, and what's the main character's name? Harriet went and slept in the twin bed. I was so hoping that Wynn would come and get in the other bed, and then they would have a conversation. That'd like how they started off. I was like, I want a full circle, but I didn't.
I love how they started fighting. Then she's like, "I hate how you load the dishwasher."
Yeah. Puts cups on the bottom. Well, I mean, it felt realistic to like throw like one superficial like dumb thing in there with the rest of her valid complaints.
Yes. And she was our people pleaser, Harriet. She really needs to like start small.
So go on the bottom.
Yeah, there's so many situations in like Emily Henry's books in general that I think would just make great movies. Like can we just like adapt these, because like this one especially
they're working on them.
Was like perfect.
Are they? Yeah, I can't remember which one they're going first. It might be Book Lovers. I can't, but like there's like writer's strike obviously is happening, but they're like writing.
Yeah. So in like 2027.
Yeah,
probably. Honestly,
God, don't say that.
I don't know. I feel like a movie, these type of movies, I don't feel like they would need that huge of a budget, like because this one is like all in one house.
Yes.
And like a small town.
It's a bougie house though.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where the budget goes. Get a cast of unknown and just pay for the house. That's exciting though.
Yeah, like stop making Nicholas Sparks like movies.
Yes.
Like make these.
Start making Emily Henry movies.
That's what we need.
That is
what we deserve.
Emily being the Nicholas Sparks of our generation.
Oh my gosh, that is what I need.
Okay, so I referenced this a little bit in the beginning, but I was worried about this one because when it came out, there were a ton of like very polarizing like opinions. There are a ton of negative reviews. People were not super happy with this. And then from like those initial like reviews, then I started to hear more of, if you're a beach read person, you'll be more of a happy place person. But if you're a people we meet on vacation person, then you're more of a book lovers.
I have thoughts about this.
Tell us your thoughts, Paige.
Okay, so I read this when I was still in ARC because I was blessed. I worked for the company that published it. And I noticed on TikTok specifically, the people who were raging against this were traditional romance readers. And they found Emily through People We Meet on Vacation. So I was really frustrated by it because I was like, this is just not a traditional romance book. but that doesn't mean it's bad just because it's sad. That was their main thing, where it was like, it's too angsty to be romance. And I'm like, you're like, the things that they were critiquing was the point of the book. And that's like the frustration that I had with the pre-release discussions that were happening.
But Beach Read had a lot of those same sort of complaints. Beach Read is also like about, you know, another death of a parent and like infidelity, and like there's like a cult subplot, and like a ton of stuff is like dark dramatically, but then you have all this like witty banter and two people falling in love. And so right out of the gate, Emily Henry was hit with like, that's not real romance, and like trying to like shift it more to women's fiction. So it's really interesting to me that she gets hit with this. And I think another thing is that her endings tend to be happy for nows, which this one was also kind of like a happy for now. Like it was hopeful. Like you don't get the epilogue where they have 3 children and they're, you know, whatever. It's just kind of like, and maybe things will work out. And I think that happy for now also makes people feel like this isn't real romance.
Because they want a happily ever after.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like her books always feel, I mean, yes, they're technically happy for nows, but I always feel like very hopeful about the couple. So it's funny that people are like, it's not like it's ambivalent or like vague about any of it. So it's funny because I've apparently been like not clued into what's going on with any book discussions, because I didn't know like how people were reacting to this. So yeah, I can definitely see there being like a through line of like these like Happy Place and Beach Read being having those like sadder tones. But I said this in the group chat, I'm a book lover's Beach Read girly, so like where do I sit?
You would like this,
like, you know, so it's kind of like, okay, so I can like both. Like the only, and we'll talk about this with rankings and stuff, the only one of her books that I don't love is People We Met on Vacation. All the other ones I love.
Can I just say, one of the comments that really got me was a girlie said that the cover and title was misleading, and I was like, it's supposed to be a juxtaposition. That literally was, so it was like those levels, and it was all pre-pub, because I feel like once it actually hit shelves and people were actually reading it, it hit the target audience of like people who read past the 2 very romance heavy, because I feel like Book Lovers is the perfect medium between People We Meet and like a Beach Read, where like it had other things, but it was a like tropey like romance thing. And when you read that book, I don't know how you could say Emily Henry doesn't write romance, because she very clearly loves romance. Like she wouldn't have been able to write Book Lovers if she didn't like romance and the tropes and the genre. So like, yeah, it just really frustrates me as an Emily Henry #1 stan. If they don't find the world, I'm dead.
Kayla, I think you said in the group chat that you were more People We Meet on Vacation.
No. That's actually my favorite. I am Book Lovers Happy Place. Beach Read was
Book Lovers Happy Place. Okay.
Yeah, Beach Read was just okay to me at the time. I don't know. Maybe I had to reread it. I don't know what headspace I was in. But People We Meet on Vacation was definitely #4, like no matter what. So I feel like that's a general consensus. I don't know what it is about.
I think I'm the only one that really likes People We Meet on Vacation.
I like it. It just isn't my favorite. Like I liked all her books.
That was fine. Yeah. It was fine.
I don't dislike it when we did our live show, but in retrospect, it keeps getting worse in my memory. Because all of my complaints,
I think that's the one that's getting adapted, actually. That's the one that's getting adapted, because there's a whole rumor that the guy that plays Matthias in Shadow and Bone, like people were like casting him. He's not being on it. I asked her, and she said that's not true. But yeah, that's the one.
He's
that's getting adapted.
He's very cute, so that would be if they went that way.
Unfortunately, it's all rumors, but I was like, is it true?
What a bummer.
Yeah.
Is that true?
What's your #1, Jordan?
I don't think I have a #1.
Okay.
I think I would rank all of them like together. I would just say I like Emily Henry. All of them on the same. Yeah, and also I don't remember any of them like super distinctly very well. So I just remember that I generally enjoyed reading them as I was reading them. I enjoyed the romances. I liked the characters for all of them, and I would reread all of them.
Yes. I wouldn't reread People We Meet on Vacation. I mean, I guess I would, like if I were doing like a project or to like really see or cement my ideas about it, but like probably not. But I will say that I have impressions of her books, and the reason that I couldn't pick a number one right now is because I remember really liking Beach Read, but not really remember Beach Read. So this one's so fresh in my mind that I feel like I can say, oh, this would be number one, but is it? I don't know, because Beach Read is too far gone. So her books stay with me as impressions, but not necessarily the details of them.
Yeah, I think Happy Place, but that's also because I read it today. And Beach Read, maybe, but all of them.
Oh,
Beach Read number one. Beach Read number one.
I've only read Book Lovers and Happy Place. I rated Book Lovers 5 and I rated this 4. I just remember I just really liked the main character and I loved the sibling exploration.
Yeah.
So that's what snagged me.
The banter in Book Lovers was like top tier. I remember that banter.
I remember reading the first page and knowing I was gonna love that book.
And it's grumpy as like the listen.
I wasn't here for the Book Lovers thing. I think I really had some issues with the pacing in that one. It was so weird. The guy disappeared for like a chunk of the book and he's just gone. Yeah. And then you're just like, that's the number one where I would be like, is this a romance? Because it just leaves. Like, what is going on here?
I don't remember. That's the one where like I like Book Lovers more on vibes and have a vague impression and still love it. And then Beach Read, I like remember specific scenes, and I was like emotionally distraught by Beach Read. Yes. Like I was like, I will never recover from this ever in my life. Like this is, oh my god. So like that was just the one that was solidified where I was like, I will read every Emily Henry book from here on out.
I will say one of the things that one of the reasons that I will always read Emily Henry is regardless of if the specific tropes work for me or the plot or whatever, Emily Henry is writing high quality books. Like that woman can write, which is like when you find that in, a contemporary romance setting, you got to like latch on and run with it. And I feel like I love her banter. I can understand why it would be too much for people, but she's got like, her books are so quick with the lines, descriptions, the banters. It just feels like a less annoying like episode of Gilmore Girls to me.
Yeah.
Level of like, back and forth. And she's got these lines that like make me laugh that I think are so like witty, like the friendship, like back and forth, their inside jokes just feel so real. So the quality of her writing is just top tier. So I'm always going to try it, regardless of if the specific like details of the plot or the tropes are for me,
Yeah, like I don't even have to know. Like for this one, I didn't know what the synopsis was for like until right before we read it. Like, I was like, I'm just gonna read it. I literally don't care what it's about.
I didn't know the synopsis until I was reading it.
Same. My hold from the library did not come in, so I needed to go. I went and bought it. The cashier thought I was a little weird because I was the guy standing there with this hot pink.
Oh my god! Stop!
I got the notification today from the library. They were like,
wow.
"Oh, you can come pick up your Happy Place," and I'm like,
Too late
now.
I was standing there with his hot pink book, like sweating, running out of time. Like,
I finished it 2 days ago.
You did.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Thank you.
I listened to the whole audiobook today at work.
Nice. I did like the audio. The freaking narrator for the audiobook was stunning. The way she actually acted, like when someone was crying, she was crying and saying the words. It was insane. 10 out of 10 audiobook. Would recommend if you haven't listened to
Julia Whalen, right?
Yeah. And I felt like I did listen to it on a higher speed, but I felt like when she was doing like the scenes of Harriet tumbling out all of her feelings at the end, like her voice got like quicker and she like did this what you would do in real life if you were like upset, and
it literally made me tear up listening to it because when I hear people like cry, I also cry. So she did Julia Whalen is one of my favorite audiobook narrators. So I highly, if you see her name, like go check it out.
Get it. Yeah.
She did a great job on this one as well. Yeah. All right. Anybody want to change their star rating? Everybody good?
No.
Feeling good with
4.25.
I love it.
4.25?
Yeah.
I think I'm 4.5. I think I'm landing pretty solidly there. This is for future Sam when she's about to collect all of her data.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Oh man, I haven't rated a single book this year. I don't know how you're.
Oh, girl, I just go on vibes based on how you're saying it. I still give it a star.
I just finished Legends and Lattes yesterday.
Oh my god!
You finished Legends and Lattes.
I did. It was a struggle, actually.
Oh wow! Wow.
Listen, we're not including your rating in it. Okay.
No, give her the rating because it needs to weigh down the rest of these.
No.
Mari brings it down enough.
2 stars. 2 stars.
I gave it 3 because I liked it for the majority, and then I was like, "Oh my god, can this please be over?"
Wow.
Put that in your data.
Nope.
Okay. Anything else about Emily Henry or Happy Place?
No.
Read it.
Count the rating.
Yeah.
The people in the comments have spoken.
One person.
People.
All of the people, look at them. That's our book for next month.
I don't know. Connor?
There you go. I was going to say Connor.
Okay. Yes.
Dragonfall by L.R. Lamb. Excellent. Dragonfall is for next month. And then next month, we'll also pick our final 3 books of the year.
Yeah. This year went fast.
Except for August.
Count the rating. Just as
I have to say, I enjoyed the picking the names and picking a book so much more.
Yeah.
Same.
Trying to collectively agree.
Same.
I'm reading the Hugo nominees, and so I revisited our Daughter of Dr. Moreau live show to remember what even happened, and that was December 2022, and we were joking about making it the year of Jordan, and that was the first time that we joked about somebody picking a book each month. So I'm really happy that we went with that. It's
gone well.
First time I've been able to pick.
Yeah.
Join us.
So next month it should be like this again, because the last time we had to pick, there was only 3 of us here.
Provided y'all choose a date where I can be up for it.
Listen, you moved across the ocean. Okay, you gotta be here.
I will be here. I will.
Y'all are welcome for Happy Place, by the way. Okay.
Amazing.
All right, we will see you guys next month for Dragonfall. Thank you so much for being here, and we gotta win, everybody.
All right, bye.
Bye.